Hello, I'm Gus Downing, publisher and editor of the D&D Daily, and this is the LP News Network. We're here today with Kevin Colman, Group Vice President of Asset Protection at Macy's. In today's challenging times, building and retaining teams is a critical component in running a successful program and driving results. Being able to identify, recruit, attract, and successfully hire the right people is a challenge for everyone, especially given the labor shortage and the retail climate. Couple that with retaining and developing talent, and you have a full-time leadership challenge that all good leaders must be able to accomplish, regardless of all the other variables. With all of this said, you then have the cultural and community impact that's a critical component when you have teams scattered across the nation, as every retailer has their own unique culture and individual community they serve that has to be taken into consideration when building those teams. It's a lot of pieces to fit together and has to be a focus of all leaders. With that, we'd like to thank Kevin for being here today. Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks for having me.
You know, let's start out with the biggest question that everyone would have, and that is, how are you keeping the team together and ensuring that they stay focused and keep driving results?
Well, I think we just keep communicating that, we're on this journey together. And, it's a very exciting time to be in our industry. So we're evolving, and, unless you evolve with it, you're going to be left behind. And I think that my team realizes that and realizes that we need to come together and figure out the best way to move forward. And when you look across the United States, and these are general numbers, but there's about 7 square feet of retail space per capita in the United States, and there's about a little over 1 in Europe and Japan. So, we're out of whack, and if you can see our landscaping changing as we move forward here, and as the shift goes to online, then you're probably going to be left behind. Mm-hmm. So I don't think anybody right now can pinpoint exactly what retail loss prevention, asset protection is going to look like 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. But we can certainly have a lot of fun trying to figure it out, and the team can get together, and we can bring the smartest people to the top and really figure out how we become more relevant in the industry, and even look at this as a springboard where we can maybe jump in and even have a bigger seat at the table than we've had before, if we're the first ones to kind of figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Even with all of this happening, you're still going to have openings, around the country, and the need to find the very best talent and get them on the team, which you've been doing for some time now. How are you doing it, and what's working for you over at Macy's?
Well, I'll say, whatever changes and whatever retail looks like in 5 years, the people with the best people on the team are going to be most successful. And, that's the common denominator for everything is, we like to say great people, great everything, or better people, better everything, however you want to surmise it. But strongly believe that having the talent out there is what makes you successful. One thing that I think that may give us a little bit of an edge that we do or really pushing is we're trying to be extremely cutting edge from a technology standpoint. Mm-hmm. So if you're recruiting someone coming out of college, you can talk to them about how we're working with strategic partners to develop RFID as a solution to some of our issues, or what new camera technology we're working on, or what's out there for virtual reality surveillance in the future, and what are all these ideas that we're bringing to the table that most are not even developed yet. Mm-hmm. But most we're working with our strategic partners to say, hey, if we can develop this and implement it, it'll have a big impact not only on us but the industry. So if you have that train of thought, versus like standing in a coop and catching a shoplifter, that's obviously a big sell. I think the second thing is you really have to take your best people and give them space. So let your fast horses run, per se. And I have 5 regions, and I really feel like all 5 regions kind of have their own flavor and their own personality, and it's because the leaders in those individual regions have decided that they think this is the best way to get it done. And there's 5 different opinions, and at the end of the day, we'll all have numbers to say, hey, who's successful, and we can learn off each other. But we're not afraid to make mistakes, and we're not afraid to have people try new things. And when you have a company that's large enough, you can't really sink it with one bad choice. Mm-hmm. It takes a few, and hopefully you catch up with somebody before they make a few. But as long as you allow somebody to come in and not really paint by the numbers, but just give them a picture and let them paint what they think the best way to exemplify that strategy is, then I think that it will continue to get creative, smart people into your company.
You know, as it relates to cultural fit, building teams that reflect the communities you serve, an emphasis all retailers should be giving priority, you know, regardless of the retail channel. Can you share with us what you're doing and how do you measure the cultural fit and ensure that your teams reflect the communities you serve?
Well, you know, our part of the industry is really unique, and it's a different skill set than the rest of retailer. And the, you know, there's a real strong component of street smart that you have to do what we do, and that's not something that your normal HR recruitment team will go out and look for. So, you know, that's something that we can do as an asset protection group. And when you look at, you know, how do you leverage a company of some size to impact the community, and what's the symbiotic relationship there? So how do you help the community and help your business? One of the things that we do is, you know, we know that street smart component is something that we need, and we need that diversity of thought in our organization. So we'll go out to inner city areas and speak to community leaders, you know, pastures, urban leagues, and so forth, and say, hey, do you have any recommendations for people that we can bring into our company? And you know, you look at that as somebody who's grown up and persevered through some of the obstacles that, you know, a lot of people have not had to as they come out of college. You know, there's some character building that goes there, and to me, that's an untapped talent market. So to me, if I can find like gems in that field, in those inner city areas, and bring them into our organization and match them with the Stanford guys that are, you know, analyzing big data, and you have those two thought processes together, that's what we talk about when we talk about diversity of thought. And you know, one of our pillars for our mission statement is strength through diversity. And as long as we continue to build those different perspectives, I think it makes us a stronger team. And then the side effect of that is the community appreciates you. So if you look at you know, some of the turmoil that's going on in the country right now, you know, it's really economically divided, and there's not a lot of riots going on in the suburbs. You know, but you see them in Baltimore, and you see them in Los Angeles, and you see them in New York. So you know, like, these guys need jobs, and jobs is what's eventually going to change you know, the attitudes that are in some of these inner cities, and so we can help there. And at the same time, obviously, we tap the talent, and I hope to see in several years from now some of the people that are coming out of this program into top levels in the company. And I just think that that's a win-win across the board.
How are you driving that to the community? I mean, can you explain that process of, you know, who goes to those community leaders, and how do you present it to them and really make that happen? I mean, talking about it is one thing, yeah. Making it happen, you know, is another thing. But the third thing is, what's the boots on the ground? How are you actually orchestrating this?
Well, we're in the second year of the program right now. So what it started was, since I'm based in New York, we obviously focused on New York the first year. And so, you know, we have a consumer relations department with some contact information to begin with. But secondly, you know, we've done some work in the community already just to try and make sure that we have an upstanding reputation with these areas. So, you know, those contacts have been made over a few years, but it's as simple as finding out who your representatives for the Urban League are. If you need a place to start, you know, that's a great place to start. Now, is that loss prevention doing it, or is that H&R doing it before you? No, this is asset protection.
Or kind of intertwined together doing
right
it?
Right now it's completely asset protection. So in the future it may look a little bit different, but there's a list of people that I invited to meet with us in our headquarters in Herald Square and explain the program to them. And I had a very good story to tell, because I started as a door guard, store detective, and you know, can talk about like the foot in the door opportunity, and you know, that like education may not be as important as in some other fields, and there was different opportunities to grow through our company and actually have a career, not necessarily in asset protection, but a foot in the door, and then you can roll into operations or HR or sales or whatever you really find your aptitude is in. But that, you know, idea was very well perceived, and then you have people giving you recommendations. So we start this during the holiday season when we have this huge influx of people coming in, and we're normally, as I'm sure most retailers are, scraping for people. So right off the bat, you have somebody with a personal recommendation. You know, somebody who knows somebody's mother who's a great person and is raising a child by herself, or somebody who's very responsible, that they're willing to put their name on. So that elevates them to the top of the list as far as I'm concerned, versus the pool of the 10,000 that are out there on the system waiting to be interviewed.
So the regional asset protection manager, does it get down to the single unit LPM as well, possibly?
In year 2, what we did was branch that out. So we went from 8 hires in the New York City area, and this year we did 30 across the country. And so those were different cities, different key cities across the country, and that was the regionals. So next year we'll expand it down to districts, and we hope to get it down to stores eventually, with the goal of bringing in 100 people per year through this process. So it's in the beginning phases, but I just think that's a great representation of how we reach out and grab talent that represents like the whole communities we serve, not just specific areas.
Well, and it's also, somewhat differentiated. I mean, you're using your tech advancements to go after the techies and the ones in college, and you're doing a community outreach program to make sure that you're diverse, inclusive, and
Right.
really kind of making sure you have that diversity of thought in the department.
Absolutely, because the techies will get their clocks cleaned unless they have some street smarts in there.
Sure.
Working with them, and and obviously those roles can flip as their careers develop. But that's why diversity of thought is so important.
Have you discussed this or talked about with any of your colleagues in the industry?
This is the second year that I've been running it, so I've discussed it in our NRF council, but I'm about to report back to them again in a couple of weeks to see maybe if there's some other people that want to jump on the program, and maybe it can be an industry standard as opposed to a Macy standard.
I would hope the NRF would make it a session at one of the Protect shows.
Be a good idea.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great program. Kevin, thanks for being here today.
Great to be here.
Well, that's it for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to thank you for watching. And until next time, let's keep them all safe out there.